Alright. We got ourselves the weekly cup, ESL Asia 225. REYNOR in the top left side of the map going for a 15 hatchery. 15 pool opening against NightMare. NightMare's a player. I was just talking to the stream before I started this cast about how he's developing. Beating guys like Beyond, beating guys like Clem. His PvT's been off the chain. We know for a while he's been capable of taking the odd PvP series off of a Max Pax or a hero. Not favored versus them, but he could take series off them, which is better than most players. There's a lot of guys out there who have records like 13 losses, 0 wins versus Max Pax or hero, because those two are just clearly the best PvP players in the world. NightMare's really good at that. But this is a Zerg. This is REYNOR. He's one of the best Zergs in the world. Not problem, but curiosity factor for me here is how good is NightMare in this matchup? This is a matchup that a lot of Protoss players who get good at PvT and PvP, those are slower paced. They can't quite handle the pace of PvZ, especially against a guy like REYNOR that really ups the ante and gets in your face and attacks from all sides from start to finish. So for me, my eyes are on this saying, hey, NightMare, number one, what styles are you playing? Because he normally has a bit of a unique twist on the match, on each matchup he plays. And also, how are you going to hold up against the intensity of REYNOR? Are you able to get in there and do it? Also, what version of REYNOR shows up? Is this tricky REYNOR mixes in some all-ins? Do we have Roach Maxes coming out and Mutalisk swaps and Nidus Worms and that? Because it's always funny. I feel like sometimes when REYNOR's like really practiced before a tournament, you'll see him play like that. Now, REYNOR does have 3 workers stacked here, so his worker mining is a little inefficient in his main base. He does also pull off onto gas, but he only did that after the probe left. So REYNOR's really focusing on trying to get that link speed up as fast as possible. Now, I believe REYNOR was doing a 12-hour stream at the time of playing this tournament. So I don't think he's in here going, this is my best prepared tournament of all time. But, he's still going to absolutely play his heart out. And we've seen that these top players who've streamed a fair bit, especially like REYNOR and Cyril over the last year or two, they've gotten very comfortable streaming regularly. And now that REYNOR's on his Korea arc, as he calls it, where he's living over there in Korea, competing in GSL, doing a lot of streaming, he's I think, very comfortable just kind of chatting and playing at the same time. Now, NightMare's playing defensively, which is so not like the NightMare of old. He's going to go Twilight Council, Adept there to block Zerglings getting in, and he's just chronoing probes. Link speed has started. It's going to finish just before the 4-minute mark, it looks like. Quite a bit of lava sitting around right now for REYNOR. He starts the 3rd base after the 3rd queen. Now, this is interesting, guys. 3 queens before 3rd, and then he builds a 4th queen while floating a lot of lava. So he's rushing his queens to be ready for an oracle, but he slowed down his drones a lot for this. I would criticize this opening and say this is very suboptimal for REYNOR, simply because if you haven't seen Adepts getting chronoed out at all, I think you can afford to be a little bit greedier here and get like the 3rd base potentially earlier. Now, to be fair, there's an argument that doesn't matter if there's an Adept or not. If you think it's an oracle, get the 3rd queen, because the more creep spread does help you connect to your 3rd base and get more control. But definitely the 4th queen, I think, should have been delayed until after the drones. The early droning is the priority, because you want to get to 35 to 40 drones as quickly as possible and then start making army. But REYNOR, he's going to go up against Glaives with a lesser worker count, and that's really hard. The fact that he's still droning even now, he just has no idea. He thinks there's oracles coming, and at this point, guys, it's 4 minutes. He hasn't seen an oracle. If it's 4 minutes and you haven't seen an oracle, you have to react. He starts with the Roach Horn, but his drone count is very low. He's got 5 queens going to 7 queens. Queens are a very tanky unit. They're good for stabilizing. He definitely could hold on. I just look at that worker count and I feel like it's already worked. Like the build for NightMare is already doing okay. Now, on the other hand, Nexus is down at 420. He's got Dark Templar here. It's not Glaive Adepts, guys. It is Dark Templar, 3 Gate Glaives. And the Prism is not that fast. It's actually quite slow, the Prism, with this version of the build, where he picks up and moves out. It's kind of an economic Dark Shrine build. And that's especially bad for REYNOR, one could argue, because he was sitting so low on workers. However, having seen the 3rd base, look at this pivot. Lair goes down, Sporkruller in the natural, mass drone. And with 7 queens to push back the Prism, any follow-up Archon drop is not going to be all that scary, is it? Prism goes north, DTs are there on the left, the Lings can easily trap those Dark Templar. Queens are going to split. I like the Queen split, very nicely done. And if you run in range of those spores, the Lings can surround, but of course the Prism can pick you up. Good micro on both sides. REYNOR does regain the worker advantage after this early defense, and you know what, guys? 7 queens, they might not be the highest damage unit, but getting them out like this, he now has amazing creep spread, like I said, great anti-air control against the Prism, and actually REYNOR's setup is rather nice. That being said, it's a Zealot Archon follow-up, and that is scary. 3 more gateways coming in. It's going to be 6-gate Zealot Archon. He's going to have to build some roaches to be defensive against that. Queen's getting some damage on the Prism. Transfuse is ready. Good links around, but you don't want to keep chasing with the Zerglings because those Archons can shuffle in and out and get big damage. Now, probes are still building for NightMare right now. He's not non-stop probing, though. Notice he's not building probes on this 3rd Nexus. There we go. He is, but it's a little intermittent. NightMare wants to hit a stiff timing. He's building up to 8 gateways in Immortal. It looks like a big Zealot Archon timing. And REYNOR is going to need to scout the lack of gas on that 3rd base, which he's in position for. Oh my god, that Prism! Oh, that was a big overcommit. He gets a Queen and a few Zerglings. He loses an Archon. I can't believe that other Archon even got out of there. That Archon barely survived with the recall. Great catch by REYNOR. Now, REYNOR's droning up really hard, but seeing no gas on this 3rd is a huge tell. Remember the rule that Cyril told us a couple years ago, guys, which is if they never take gas on their 3rd, you just stop at 66 workers, you just make army. If they take the gases on their 3rd, then you go up to like 80 workers. He's like, you drone your 4th. But otherwise, in this case, you don't drone your 4th. Now, REYNOR's overdroned his 3rd a little. He's at 71, but that's fine. Transfer a few workers to the 4th and basically just make army. Now, he's trying to pivot into Spire, into Mutalisks, and that's going to be amazing against a guy who has no real answer to that. No Blink, no Phoenix, nothing. REYNOR should be able to defend this with Mass Roach, but he's building Zerglings right now. Oh, REYNOR's trying to bank for Mutalisks. He doesn't seem to realize this is a very stiff Zealot Archon Immortal timing. Why is he building so many Zerglings? He really should be massing Roaches. There's only 2 Immortals out there. You need a big core of Roach Ravager to deal with the Zealot Archon before you can deal with the Immortals. This is actually going to be quite big. The Queens, the Roaches, and the Zerglings here trying to defend. Giving up the 4th base would suck, but it's not the end of the world. Zerglings very weak against Zealot Archon. The Roaches and the Ravagers, the Links coming in from behind are not bad. But this is a tough position to be in as REYNOR because he just doesn't have that many units. He does try to buy all the Prism, but he doesn't quite get it. Nice micro from NightMare. Doesn't matter. REYNOR has the numbers. He has enough Roach Ravager. This man, I'm like, why is he doing this? He needs to treat this attack with respect and Mass Roach. REYNOR's like, mate, I'm so far ahead. I can beat it with Zerglings and bank gas already for other stuff. Not to mention, to be fair, he was using the gas for Ravagers, which makes sense. And that does prepare him, of course, more for the Mutalisks. Basically, what I'm saying is REYNOR knew exactly what he could get away with. And you can see how, like, my thought process was that you need to be much more careful. REYNOR realizes, hey, I can get away with murder. I'm REYNOR, and that's kind of my specialty. Always has been. We've always talked about how REYNOR is just a bit greedier than other Zergs and gets away with it. He puts pressure on his opponent simply because if you don't do something about it, he will get out of control. Now, that Immortal drop on that left was kind of sexy. Those Zealots on the right doing pretty well. Now, REYNOR's on 69 workers, NightMare's on 66, but units lost tab being dead even. This is fantastic for Zerg. 8 Mutas are coming out. You want to hide them, though. Oh, he's going to go for the Prism. Oh, I would have hid those, but you know what? If you get 2 Immortals, it's well worth. It's well worth. It's well worth. All right, so now he's going to play Ravager Ling Bane, which is perfectly fine. I think REYNOR, yeah, can just drone his 4th and basically tech up. He's against a 3-base Protoss, so the only scary thing is if he gets enough Storm Immortal, Ravager Bane could fall off. And are you actually able to get damage here? Blink's almost done, so it doesn't look like the Mutas are going to find too much. Roach Ravager does eat some big storms. The Stalkers are all on the right side. The Mutas come over to focus the High Templar down, but his Roach Ravager does overcommit into the storm. Ooh, REYNOR's ground army kind of just got swamped there. That was a bit of an overcommitment. He ate some nasty storms, and as much as Roach Ravager can handle a little bit of storm, they can handle a little bit, not a lot. REYNOR's Mutalisks getting great damage in the main base, though. The multitasking is very good for the young Italian. He's got 7 worker kills so far. Nice surround on the Immortals. Oh, NightMare chases too far. This is that pace I was talking about. It was getting to that point where it looked like REYNOR took a really bad fight. NightMare had a scarier army. But then REYNOR pulls his attention in 2 separate areas, and NightMare kind of overextends and loses a lot of stuff. Now, to be fair, 3 Mutalisks did die, but he still got enough to one-shot probes, which is all that matters. And it's a 3-base Zerg against a 4-base, now 5-base Zerg against 3-base Protoss. Like, this is a situation where, well, it's scary if NightMare builds a giant army, but he's just lost all of his High Templar and Immortals. So there's no way he can build a giant army. REYNOR has basically kept the trading happening at the perfect moment where Zerg is always on the cusp of maxing out, and Protoss is like, I got a 120 supply. No double forge. So there's no armor or shield upgrades. There's no 4th Nexus. Like, everything is going fantastically for REYNOR here. And he's actually going back into Mutalisks, which I was not expecting, guys. So I guess he's going to play more of like a base trading style. Like I said, I would have expected an earlier hive for either a Broodlord or potentially Ultra transition, since he's been keeping that Immortal count so low. Ultras are a bit of a counter. But yeah, no, he's doing good. He's got this pretty much in the bag. I say that, but we've all thrown games before. Don't forget, guys, there is a time-tested tactic in StarCraft called chucking a Zerg. Chucking a Zerg is when the only way you could lose a game is by finding your opponent's strongest point and headbutting into it, and then you do just that. That was not bad, though. He gets 1 or 2 high tempo. I think he only got 1 there. But he baits all the storms, forces all of the Archons to morph, which means you don't have any storms. The mutas mostly survive. They will regenerate as long as he's careful with them. And look at that. Ling Bane Roach coming in. Good spread. I don't even know if he needs to spread. There's no storm energy left. Ling's in the top, going to deny the 4th. Mutas bouncing around. He could fight that cannon. And it looks like he will, while he is, of course, distracted on the front. The Stalker's getting lured out by the Zealot Archon. Does take out about 9 probes, but the muta count, you got to be careful with it. 4th base gets cancelled. Reynor's Hive almost finished right now. He's just chipping away. And like we said earlier, we've said it multiple times, Nightmare is a Protoss player who's hoping to build up a maxed out Death Ball. Right now, his army is much better quality if push comes to shove. As long as Reynor stays in more of a base trade mentality, though, he can't really lose. He looks like he wants to kill this army, though. That could work. That could work. Baneling Strider, that was meant to be a run by. Finds out that there's a new 4th in the south. Yeah, Mass Ravager Bane. If he goes and trades right now, it could be okay, but storms are kicking in. As those storms kick in, it will fall off a little bit. Mutalisks bouncing to the right side. They're going to go in and pull back. Zealots chasing the Zerglings as well. Stalkers there. I like this split on the army. Baneling's hitting this mineral line. It's going to be hard to stop. He's going to try and roll a few in before going back to the left. Reynor's movement is so fluid, but Nightmare's blocking him so far. Reynor keeping the Protoss on 3 base, but he's looking for somewhere to trade. The storms are good. The storms are good. Very good storms. The Banelings do get on top of a few of the High Templar, but only one of them actually dies there. Great storms to start on the right side. The mutas all just went down. The mutas all just went down to Stalkers. Giant Zealot counterattack. Nightmare actually making a big play right now. All he's building is Zerglings. Zerglings will not deal with that many Zealots. Not in a big ball like that. Reynor just overcommitted to the Ravager Baneling attack. He lost all of his Mutalisks while he wasn't watching. He walked into Side Storms, and that Hive Tech is very late. The Greatest Spy is not quite here. The Zerglings do actually deal with this. Apparently, +2 Zerglings are pretty good if they can get the full surround like that. But that's a big scary push. There's Storm, 29 Stalkers, 2 Immortals, and an Archon. This is actually a scary moment in this game. Reynor should have been base trading, I think, rather than fighting this head on. But Nightmare getting back in here with the 3-base setup, and he's managed to find himself up in between the rallies. Big surround comes in. Banelings are going to connect with those High Templar. Big Ling surround as well from the left, but the Archon morphs are good. The Roach Ravager coming in from the back is not in great enough numbers. Oh my lord, has Nightmare actually brought this game back? Yes, he may have. Stalker, Archon, Immortal coming forward. Dude, just a moment of kind of inattention there from Reynor on the right, losing all those Mutalisks and also getting his army wiped by the storm at the same time. You really see the hard fall-off point of Ravagerling Bane in this game. It's so good defensively when you can get a big surround, but off creep, those storms can be so nasty. Nightmare's still down 30 supply, but his army supply is very close. Unless these drones can make a big difference, which with the Archon slaying them, I don't think they can. That Prism is still warping in Zealots. Zealots running on the left side as well. Dude, he just will not lose this army. There's only 13 Roaches out. Make that 11 Roaches. The Stalkers, the Archons, the Immortals are absolutely slaying. And this is going to be a very big surprise win for Nightmare in Game 1 from the cusp of defeat. He was just looking for that one really good set of splash damage to get the efficient fight, and then immediately went for the counterattack, and it's worked out so bloody well. It looks like he's got it with a new round of Archons warping in. That counters the Zergling Remax. The Stalkers and the Immortals already do pretty good versus the Roaches, and Reynor does have to tap out there. Let's go back and quickly check that that Mutalisk catch on the right. That's unfortunate. It wasn't like a crazy amount of mutas. I think it was, what was it? It was like 7. But they still could have, of course, been, you know, around the back, picking off probes, being a nuisance, all that sort of stuff. Did he lose some Zerglings with this as well? Oh, yeah, he loses Zerglings? No, the Zerglings kind of run away, then they come back. Oh, yeah, the mutas are cleaning up the Zealots. And then he clicks them, but he only clicks them back a little bit because he's busy microing down there. So that's a very bad fight for Reynor. And down here, did he kill anything in this fight? Let's just look, because this was a lot of Ravagerling Bane. Remember, I was saying, like, I thought he'd be more, like, pure mass. So when he rebuilt Mutalisks, I thought Reynor was going to be much more Lingbane Muta focused, but then he still kind of went like Mass Baneling Ravager, so it was more of like a standard ground army. So I was thinking like, hey, we're going to like tech to like Hive and Ultras or Broods while just basically, you know, doing that game if we're playing defensive Ravager Bane, and you never rebuild Mutas, or you go for like Mass Muta and it's just all about base trading and that sort of thing. REYNOR kind of did this interesting, like, halfway between two styles, which can absolutely work, but you've just got to be very cautious with your engagements. And we saw with this fight, those Banelings unfortunately run into the army. They don't do anything. I think maybe he gets, like, one arc on here. Let's take a look. So I think he maybe lost one High Templar, one Archon. Another Archon, two Archons, two High Templar. Okay, so he loses two High Templar, two Archons, and his Nexus does get cancelled, but that kind of pulls the trigger for him, right? Where REYNOR, yeah. So he's like, well, I gotta go now. I lost my fourth again. It's 12 minutes. I'm still on 3 base. And we can see the units lost tab was even earlier in the game. It's gotten, you know, much, much worse there. So this is a good counterattack for NightMare. Getting the mutas for free on the right, getting that great trade, goes for the counter push, and that Hive Tech is quite delayed here. Yeah, and these Zealots kind of pin him at home. I always feel like when you're playing any Mutalisk style, you have to be prepared to base trade at many moments, because there will be these windows where you don't quite have your transition, your army's still in like Lingbane Muta. It's not good at fighting front on. And that's why if you do take a fight like that, you lose your army and then they're in your natural by the time you're remaxing. This is like the Nightmare Zerg, because now you don't have the option to base trade. You don't have the option to really counterattack. And you also can't quite buy the time for that Great Aspire. Whereas if we're already morphing Broodlords, right, if this is 30 seconds sooner, then you could definitely hang on. But without that, that's tough. Really well played by NightMare. That's super clutch. Well played. All right. Well, that's the sort of comeback you were never meant to make versus REYNOR. That is not meant to happen, guys. And I think this is emblematic of REYNOR's issues in this matchup, where REYNOR's gone from making the craziest comebacks versus Protoss from way behind to now Protoss players occasionally are getting crazy comebacks versus him. And I want to talk a little bit about the theory of ZVP, because we had after that game a few people saying Protoss is so broken. Oh man, one good storm wins the game. You know, as a Zerg, if you don't have a Hive by 9 minutes, you're dead. And I really want to talk about the theory of ZVP. And I have one golden rule that I occasionally forget, and I do very badly in Zerg vs Protoss, and then I remember it, and I do well. And that is, your goal in ZVP is not to kill their economy. It's not to kill their tech and upgrades. It is simply to kill their army. Now, the way you do that is very difficult. You often need to harass multiple bases, go after the workers, force them to defend. That's why Mutas in the back, Banelings rolling in from the sides is a great way to force the Protoss to split their army up. And when that army is split up, that's when they die. Think about when those Immortals chased onto the map in that last game and REYNOR surrounded them. That was a massive win. It's moments like those where you split up the Protoss death ball and you kill it. And it's not even really a death ball at those stages, but you're trying to do this as often as possible to stop the Protoss getting up that giant death ball. There's tons of splash damage to kill any Zergling, Baneling, and ranged anti-armored units to kill your Roaches, the Mortals, the Stalkers, you know, especially, God forbid, Disruptors, Colossus, and Storm will get in an army together. So it's kind of this thing where often as a Zerg, you're running around hitting the mineral lines. You're in this rhythm of like killing the Protoss economy and picking them apart. But you have to remember that the goal of that is to kill their army. If you let the army build enough, doesn't matter how much economic damage you've done, how much economic lead you have, you max out at 200 supply. That's it. You hit 200 supply, you can't make a bigger army, especially if you're making Ravagerling Bane or some sort of low-tier army. It's very difficult to actually beat the Protoss army when it gets past a certain size. And that's very, very important to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind that Protoss grows with power over time, and even if you damage their economy a lot, they're still going to be able to morph in a lot of Archons, right? With all that extra gas income, right? We've seen 3-base Protoss players add 4 Archons, add another 4 Archons. Bam, that's 8 more Archons in that army. That death ball grows in power drastically with the addition of Archons up front, soaking Banelings and Zerglings and adding splash damage. So that's kind of what I want to keep in mind here. I do think REYNOR dropped the ball. I think he went for a very dangerous style, which actually really works with his APM and his speed. Remember when he rebuilt extra Mutalisks? So his whole goal there was like, I'm going to build extra Mutas, which you're not really expecting, but I'm not actually going all out on Mutas. For me, I would always simplify things and give myself the safer option. I'd go just mass Muta or tech into the Hive a lot quicker. And that way, if you're tech into the Hive, it's like, okay, we're just trying to buy time with the Lingbane, Roach, Ravager, get to the Hive, as long as we have the Broodlords or the Ultras out to help us defend the main push when it comes, or go do a push to him, we're good. Or if I'm going mass muter, I'm like, cool, if he pushes me, if he grabs his whole army together, I'm just never going to fight that. My whole style is mobility. It's about base trading, counterattacking his worker lines. I've invested in supreme mobility, whereas he's invested in stable, static power. Anyways, let's stop talking about that, and let's talk about this amazing ambush for REYNOR. He gets one adept, the other one barely escapes. He's going to get rid of the probe. Stalker and adept coming out. That's dangerous for NightMare. More Lings arrive. That could get him in big trouble, but he does survive for now. Nicely done, that Zergling. I'm pretty sure was trying to go finish off that adept. Doesn't get to it. Now, overall, guys, that's 5 Zerglings for an adept and a probe. It's okay trading. It's not bad at all. And remember, about 40 workers is where Zerg is meant to overtake the Protoss in a sort of even game, right? And that seems to be about what's happening here. 5 more drones about to pop out. REYNOR is going to overtake in the workers momentarily. But the Oracles, there's only 5 queens out. Soon to be 7, though. Nice Overlord snipe. Hey, gets a cancel on the pylon, though. 25 mineral loss there. Good cancel for NightMare. NightMare does have a triple Oracle that will be coming across the map shortly. So it's on REYNOR right now to, number 1, make sure Adepts don't sneak through the middle now that he's lost his Overlord out front. And number 2, make sure he's got a mixture of queens and spores. 2 queens and a spore in the natural, 3 queens and a spore in the third, and 2 queens and a spore in the main. Super solid defense here for REYNOR so far. Melee upgrade starts at 5 minutes. It's not a very fast melee, but that's going to be well set up to defend. You've already seen Stalkers warping in, which makes you think this is probably Blink. There are sometimes players who will warp in 2 or 3 Stalkers and then go charge. It's a very tricky way to play. That's why I actually think it would be a good idea. We'll keep our eyes on that Twilight as it finishes and kind of see what upgrades do go in. The Oracles are dancing around, but no, it is Blink. He's not going for the 300 IQ tricky play. Stalker Oracle's going to come forward to clear creep. Battery in the open. Ooh, just go for the probes, even juicier. Oh, good warp in and mineral walk. NightMare, really tight defense, man. And he's going to focus down a few probes, though. REYNOR's got good multitasking. Does take down a Zergling. A probe, sorry. He's macroing at home. He's up a few workers and massing Zerglings. Now, he does have a Roach Warren, but his layer's quite late. So this is not going to be a game. I mean, obviously, after that last game, you guys know REYNOR already has a love-hate relationship with Mutalisks. I've been telling him Mutalisks are great. Kind of rages at me a little bit when it doesn't work. But also after that last game where it didn't work out, I think he's going to knee-jerk in the opposite direction and go, screw this! I'm not making Mutas for the rest of this series. I imagine it's going to be just Ravageling Bane up into Hive. Potentially doing big Ravageling Bane timing attacks in the mid-game. REYNOR is famous for having late Hives, by the way, guys, in this matchup. He never really techs to Hive on time. I've been criticizing him for the last year and a bit for this, but then I've always had to kind of turn on my head and say, well, you know what? He's so good at winning lair tech fights, it's actually fine. And it's only really in this more recent meta and map pool where he's starting to struggle, and one could, you know, arguably be more critical. Now, he's been a bit slow to drone up because he's trying to like wait for the Stalkers to move across so he can surround them. He wants to deny the 4th base. He built 75 Zerglings. But NightMare's just playing so safe on 3 base. And this is actually very smart against the way REYNOR's playing. Now, Lings run in, triple Oracle turning on their lasers. That's a lot of wasted energy. Lings down here do take out a building battery, and they do pull back. Storm and Charger on the way. And that lair tech should be coming up, or Hive tech. Hive at 7 minutes, plus he's going to go straight for a Lurker Den as the Hydra Den finishes. This is a very different version of REYNOR. And I did say it at the end of that last game. What's the bet? He doesn't want to play Mutas and just wants to rush to Lurkers. Because that's kind of the opposite style of... In the last game, it was just lair tech for like 12 and a half, 13 minutes, non-stop mid-game. Now he's like, you know what? You're going to play super safe against me. You're going to turtle on 3 base. You're going to play Storm. I am going to actually rush for the Lurkers and actually have that late-game power unit. 4th base attempt for NightMare here. He's got High Templar gathering energy. Feel like REYNOR's ahead in this game. Whenever Protoss refuses to take a 4th this early, it's really good if the Zerg overcommits to aggression, but if the Zerg is flexible like REYNOR was this game, even though he sat on 58 workers massing Lings for a while, I think it's well worth it to keep Protoss off a 4th base as long as you drone and tech really hard afterwards. Because Stalker Storm is very good defensively. I don't know if anyone out there's ever tried to kill anyone with Stalker Storm. Try pushing on creep with Stalker Psystorm and watch what your Psystorms do. Literally nothing at high level. Until you get Archons and all sorts of other things up there, like the Zerg will just come from so many different sides, your Storms aren't going to land. Unless there's like a billion Banelings to the point where there's not enough space for them to spread out. You know, it's very hard to kill someone with Stalker Storm. It's more of a, this secures my side of the map, my early 4th base, which in this case is definitely not an early 4th base. And then I transition from there. So second Robo's coming in, which is a good call. But look at that, guys. Lurker upgrades coming. It's that Ling Hydra Lurker style. He's made one Hydra upgrade, but not the other. Now, there's an argument behind delaying this. This is not REYNOR making a dumb mistake, guys. He wants to spend all of his gas on Lurkers. The problem he runs into here is a problem a lot of players run into, which is number one, his 4th base gas is later than it should have been. You want to get this 4th base gas up ASAP when you're taking Hive. Number 2, he's already going Dropper Lords, which it's only 100 gas, that's worth it. But number 3 is, as he starts remaxing on Hydra Ling, he needs to remember Grooved Spines, because REYNOR has forgotten that Hydra upgrade in a lot of recent Zerg vs. Terrans and Zerg vs. Protoss games. There's been about a dozen recent, I don't know, not a dozen, about 4 or 5 matches over the last week or two I've cast of REYNOR where he's forgotten one of his Hydra upgrades for the entire game. It's the Clem concussive shells meme all over again. Stasis Trap, Cannon Battery up, plus some Zealots. Really good defensive setup. These Lings ain't going to find anything. Stasis Traps, Storm, Stalkers, all guarding. So he's got some Lurkers in the middle, some Lings there. Now, one of the problems REYNOR runs into with this style is he needs a lot more Lurkers. Sometimes he ends up on like 4 Lurkers and pushing into an army that's way better than this. Like, this is such a dangerous push right now. He pushing with 5 Lurkers and just Zerglings. Like, the Zerglings die to 1 Psystorm. The fact that he's still pushing with this is crazy. I mean, it's hard for NightMare to deal with right now, but he needs more than just Zerglings here. REYNOR is maxing out on Zergling only with his Lurkers. This is such a crazy style. I've seen this one backfire. If this gets sandwiched from 2 sides by like Immortals and Storm, if he loses these Lurkers, that's the only good unit he has. Everything else is Zerglings. REYNOR's mass Zergling Lurker style is one of the most high damage but fragile kind of Lurker styles in the entire game. Dude, these Stasis Traps are buying a lot of time. NightMare has 70 probes on 4 base. He's starting 3 carriers. 3 carriers start. He needs to start air weapons as well, which he hasn't yet. I'd like to see these Immortals and Zealots move out of this choke point. He's going to have to bring these forces down because he's got to get ready to sandwich this army. We know there will eventually be more Lurkers, but actually, no, REYNOR's not building more Lurkers. He's going 2nd Evo Chamber, Spire. He's thinking about adding Broodlords. So he's kind of pressuring, but not really getting a trade-off. This is going to go to late game. Oh, does set off a stasis with only 1 Zergling going down. Nicely done. Yeah, man, this is like, REYNOR is such a high-risk player. And this is something you got to look at in all of his games. If you're out there and you're going to copy this mass Zergling with some Lurker style, good luck. Because if you're an average Joe, you're not going to be looking. You're going to look away for a second. Your whole army's going to die to splash damage in 0.1 of a second. And you're going to start complaining about balance. REYNOR is a high-risk, high-reward player, and when it works, boy, does it work. Lurker's moving forward. He outpositions him. NightMare out of position there. That mineral line's in trouble. Oh, good storms on the Zerglings, though. The probe's pulling away. Unfortunately for him, the Stasis Trap did save those Zerglings. Oh my god, the High Templar derping in. What happened to the army in the north? He needs to bring those Immortals down. If he flanks this army from 2 sides with these Immortals in the natural, NightMare can clean this up. But right now, NightMare's using up all of his Storms before he is ready to fight. He's sending Zealots to counterattack. Those should be flanking from behind. If he flanks with the Zealots from there and the army from there, not to mention there's 3 carriers and there's nothing that shoots up for Zerg. And yet he lets him snipe the Nexus. NightMare being a little bit too defensive there. I understand it's a high-pressure situation. REYNOR kind of had him pinned back for a while, but he's got to remember these units. You can't be leaving this many units just on a defensive squad when REYNOR's whole force is on the front, because REYNOR's now got Lurker, Corruptor. He's got 2 Vipers gathering energy. The Zealots in the bottom have to run away. And that is going to be a situation where there's not that big a lead on the upgrades either way. Double Spires already done for REYNOR. He started 1 upgrade. That +1 air weapons was very delayed for NightMare. Now, NightMare's gone for 6 carriers. He's going to stop building them. He goes for Plasma Shields now. There's a little bit of supply blocked. 2 pylons finally going down, as well as a 5th base in the bottom. On this map, if you can out-trade your opponent, you usually will win. It was exactly the same units lost tab there for a moment, but the Zerglings should win this fight pretty handily. Adrenal Gland Zerglings wreck Zealots, guys, for those who don't know. Oh, Lurker drop in the back. Sorry, guys, I didn't even catch that. Looks like he tried to drop a Lurker at some point, but must have had to pick that up. Nexus in the bottom left does get surrounded and taken down. New 5th base up here. And pretty decent army split. Carriers are going to go forwards. There's 11 Corruptors and 2 Vipers. Carriers, I mean, killing these Dropper Lords is not a bad idea. Zealots here. If you have enough Zealots together and an Archon or two, they wreck the Zerglings. But in small numbers where the Zealots all get surrounded, they get wrecked. And big mistake for NightMare. Oh, NightMare's going to lose at least 2 carriers, probably 3. No snap. He snap recalled that one rather than these ones that got abducted. 3 carriers for nothing. Real sloppy. I mean, when he moved out to kill those Overlords, it should have been kill the Overlords and immediately run to the left. To not take that safety precaution is a big mistake for NightMare. He gets himself punished. +2 ship weapon starts. Meanwhile, 1-1 is almost done for the air units of REYNOR. REYNOR, oh, he's been drinking that Italian beer all night, and he has got a full bladder, I think. No? He forces a Stalker warp in and flies away. Okay, there we go. There we go. He was saving up. Remember, guys, when you go out drinking, do not break the seal, because once you break it, you're not going to be able to stop running to and from the bathroom all night. That's actually a golden rule, man. And the Golden Shower did not quite work on that Nexus, but forces a battery overcharge, forces NightMare to be defensive. Zergling Lurker down, running around the south. Does the Assimilator see this? No, it doesn't really have a lot of vision, does it? So the Ling Lurker is going to try and counterattack this base. Maybe get some Lurkers in behind the left side. And, oh, Lurker Corruptor, Viper coming forward. Oracle goes down. Great flank if he can kill the High Templar. The Lurkers will die pretty quickly, but he does kill a few High Templar. REYNOR ambushing with the inferior force. Oh, the Stalkers take out the Viper, but the Abduct gets down as it dies. And he does take out a carrier. Well worth trading a Viper for that. What do we got, guys? +2 range, +3 melee. We've got +2 flyer carapace on the way as well. REYNOR is looking large and in charge in this game with the Corruptor Viper Lurker. I always find this style very difficult to use personally, but REYNOR is a master of it apparently. And he's been looking pretty damn clean. Doesn't have the best creep spread. You could argue he could spread that out a little more for sure. Like this creep kind of, it's only like he spreads a few tumors there, but there's nothing in the middle. There's a Zealot guarding the edge of creep, nothing up north. There's a few Zerglings that I think got unloaded from these Dropper Lords when they ran away, just from the way they're sitting in such a weird formation. Lings are going to clean up that. A few Hydras as well. Still doesn't have Groove Spines, but I don't think it really matters since he doesn't really plan to use Hydras for anything except morphing into Lurkers. You know, for those who don't know, Groove Spines upgrades in just 50 seconds. Only costs 100 minerals and 100 gas. It's one of the cheapest, most accessible, awesome upgrades for the Hydra. REYNOR hates it because of that. He says, no, this is the no Groove Spines challenge. He said, I have a... I want those smooth spines. They're not as aerodynamic. That's fine. Zealot run by up north. Spine Crawler's there. 3 spores kill the Prism instantly. And the Lurkers as well, backing that up, should be good on the D. Now, there's no Tempest. There's no way to really pick at the Zerg. And REYNOR's basically just hunting for Abducts, but feedback's good. Denies energy on that Viper temporarily. Okie dokie. Lurker harassed from the low ground. The Lurkers will have to run away and hide in the corner. 2-2 air weapons almost done. Air weapons and armor for REYNOR. Meanwhile, only +2 air weapons finished for NightMare. Oh, NightMare attacking around a bit of a corner. He does catch the Lurkers in the open. So a good enough angle. Takes a bit of bruising, but doesn't really lose any of his units. No cannons on this base. Does have to warp in Zealots. 3 Tempests of his own are now building. So he's going to use those to pick at REYNOR's army from afar and kind of force him to engage. Remember that unit's lost tab is big right now. REYNOR's trading more efficiently, and on this map where it's so obviously split, you get 6 bases, I get 6 bases. That's it. Like there is no other. You're not going to take one of these bases off your opponent unless they've really screwed up. You know, if you're a Terran, you float a command center in, you drop 20 mules, maybe you could mine a bit of resources, but that's pretty unlikely to happen. So in this case, it's all going to be about the efficiency long term. Remember as well, Zerg tends to spend a bit less minerals on static defense, whereas Protoss spends so much money on cannons and batteries, right? 16 cannons, 9 batteries. To be fair, there is quite a few spores and spines, so in this matchup, it's probably pretty even, the infrastructure spending, actually. Oh, wow, what are we doing, NightMare? NightMare just leaving his carriers out. Wow. Dude, that was like watching a man leaving his fly unzipped in -60 degrees Celsius temperatures. We're talking about you're putting yourself in unnecessary danger of your valuable bits getting frozen off. Lurkers do get taken down there. Bit of a dodgy move forward there for REYNOR, but the Ling run by is fantastic. Lings are going to do a lot of damage. Oh, Zealot warp in. Big Zealot warp in. Takes down the pylon though. Oh, REYNOR being a real proper D-bag to deal with. Damn, man. Corruptor's going to come forward. Can he get another kill? He just wants to kill one, kill run, kill run, kill run. 2-shot. Oh my god, another carrier. NightMares late game management is not there. And this is not a surprise. Remember, I said Nightmare used to have a style that I thought was a bit one-dimensional as a player. He's expanded it into like the late game, the mid-game dominance, whereas it used to only be early mid-game. That being said, I don't think his late game and end game unit management is up there. And we've seen it in this game because it's not like he's been in a bad position, but he's just struggling to like deal with Zergling counterattacks combined with also just his vision management. He's not tagging the Zerg army often enough with his Oracle and leaving his carriers like out there ready to just get picked off way too often. Okay, good storms, buys himself a little bit of time with those storms. Does end up losing an Observer and a High Templar, but at least he tickles the Lurkers and holds him back for now. That is a lot of Lurkers. That's 16 Lurkers, 19 Corruptors, not to mention 2 Infestors. I imagine he's using Microbial Shroud on those. I mean, I guess he can Fungal as well, potentially, but he's got to be careful with whether they do sit. Those Lurkers are going to start breaking the cannons and the High Templar. Oh, a bunch of High Templar go down. 2 High Templar did fall. Still 3 High Templar left. More High Templar are warping in. Probes are pulling back. This is an 8 Archon 4 Immortal army. You don't want to attack through a choke point into this position. This is a really bad position for Nightmare to fight. He's got it. I mean, the Tempest will clean it up, though. This is dangerous for REYNOR to hang here, unless he can actually kill the Tempest, which he can't, not with battery overcharge like that. Really? Oh, he's going to go for it. Nightmare. Oh, but he gets fungled as he tries to pull back. Nightmare. Oh, my golly. Nightmare's army just got wrecked. He went in and then tried to pull back. I feel like Nightmare needs to micro his Tempests independently from his army, which he finally starts doing here. But you could kind of see that Nightmare did not have a separate Tempest control group and was trying to just control the whole army manually, which sometimes gets the job done, but there are definitely real standoff situations like that last one where you want to pull them in and out while the rest of your army just sits there. And he's finally started doing that, but only after REYNOR took some fantastic trades. And his base up here will be defended for now. Units lost tab is 2,000 resources in favor of REYNOR. Only that much, you know? I thought that was going to be way better for REYNOR. But still, the fact that he's out trading him, denying bases, and this base on the bottom has no cannon battery. You get 20 Zerglings in here, that base just dies, it could be game over. Not to mention, there is still 4 Immortals in the mix, and REYNOR's opening Ultra Tech. You don't want to go too heavy into the Ultras when there's 4 Immortals, in my opinion. If there's like 4 or more Immortals, I feel like that's almost the magic number where your Ultras just die a little bit too fast. If it's like 3 or less, maybe. 2 or less Immortals, definitely good choice to go Ultras in that scenario. High Templar, taking some damage. Careful, mate. You want to go side to side, guys. You want to go perpendicular to the spines. You do not want to go in a straight line with them, otherwise they will hit you with that 10 range. Cannon battery on this base looking good. Nightmare, though. Uh-oh, he's maxed. He can't warp in other units. Looks like the Viper almost goes down, but not quite. The Stalkers do blink forward and probably worth sacrificing their lives to take that Viper out. Storm does zone the Corruptors, but man, another Nexus goes down. He's just got to leave some more units at home for this. And it doesn't feel great to do that, but he kind of has to. Feels like Nightmare is grabbing everything to the front a little bit more. And that's going to cost him his 3rd base yet again. Not to mention just all the cost of losing the probes, the Nexi, all these things does add up, but the Tempest can chip. And this is where Protoss is meant to win the late game efficiency in a standoff, is just look at that. Kill the Corruptor. Killed another Corruptor. You can just keep doing this every time. Look, the units lost tab is evened out right now. You can absolutely win this game as Nightmare. It's just look at the bank difference because you're losing your bases. And oh my god, he's even losing that one. The cannons and batteries all got depowered. He took down the pylons. Fungal comes in there. Looks like some of the Lurkers may have moved forward. How many? I mean, we've lost 8 carries in Tempest this game for 21 Corruptors, 4 Vipers. But the Vipers are gone. There's only 15 Corruptors. There are a few Broodlords more often help deal with this ground. I mean, look at this. These Tempests are getting value. And Nightmare, you know, now that he's starting to micro these Tempests really well, he's been using some good Oracle tags. He's building 2 more Oracles, another Oracle. He's going up to 4 Oracles. That might be a little more than is necessary. But vision is important. His Observer's on surveillance mode. The Lurkers are getting wrecked. Corruptors going down. Dude, this is really annoying for REYNOR. Like, how does he deal with this force? Nightmare, if he can win it with this army, look, his bank's building, even though he's only got 1 mining base. He's like, as long as I defend that base and keep trading like this, look, now I'm ahead 1,000 resources. I just killed your hatchery. So the Tempests here, you know, it forces REYNOR to make a move. Now, that being said, 10 Tempests is so much supply, 40 supply of units that have long range, but their stats suck. They're very good at poking and prodding, but when push comes to shove, when REYNOR jumps on this army, those Tempests are going to be absolutely pathetic in terms of how expensive they are, how much supply they chew up, and how much damage and hit points they actually add to a fight. They really are not worth their cost when push comes to shove. Zealot Run-By goes in. Looks like some Lings, Hydras, Lurkers will split off to try and deal with it. This hatchery gets sniped down here again. Good cancel, though, for REYNOR. He's got quite a few Infestors up. 6 Infestors, no Vipers right now. 1 is building. Lurkers are trying to get back here to defend this, and they should be able to. But, dude, NightMare's keeping it up. NightMare is keeping up the aggression. REYNOR's trying to pull back. He's trying to wait until he has the numbers. If he can land a big fungal, come in from all sides and kill everything, that'd be great. But he's afraid of his Corruptors just getting killed by Archon Splash and Psystorm. If his Corruptors get killed by Archon and High Templar, he just can't deal with the carriers and the Tempest, and it's going to be lights out. So what's he building? Ultras. Now, you might be wondering why Ultras. It's because if he can get them on top of these High Templar, kill them before they Psystorm, it changes everything. It absolutely changes everything. No Psystorm means the Corruptors can run in there, overwhelm the air units, while the Lurkers and Broodlords slowly deal with everything else. Neuroparasites on the way. He didn't have that. That's a big mistake. Burrow only now coming in as well. His Lings are still running around trying to deny bases. There is a new Nexus trying to go up right now, but REYNOR should be able to find and deny that. Looks like more Lurkers are getting picked off. So many Lurkers, guys. They're almost all gone. He's lost 36 Lurkers. He's only got 2 Lurkers left. The Tempests have wrecked him. Zerglings once again going for the Artosis snipe. Oh no! The Artosis snipe is big! He's going to do a slow Zealot warp into defend his NightMare. NightMare's like, no, not my last mining base. Already loses 6 or 7 probes there before that Zealot warp in finally does defend that base in the bottom left. Here we go, Broodlords coming in. Here comes the Fungal! Watch out for the Fungal, mate! Fungal does land on top. Tempests need to focus down those Broodlords, I believe. He is focusing the Broodlords, but with 10 Tempests, the overkill is extreme. 10 Tempests shooting a Broodlord when it only takes 5 to kill one. The Broodlords are all about to go down. The Immortals do clean up the Ultralisks. The Corruptor count is getting absolutely hammered. There's 6 Tempests and a carrier left. 12 Ultras are building. Dude, there's no way to deal with the air army. REYNOR's just going to have to go for the ground. Overwhelm. He's going to go back into Corruptors now with his last little bits of money, but his bank is gone. He was so far ahead in the momentum in this game, but NightMare has really made a play of it. That being said, the Remax is going to be pretty huge. Abducts a Tempest, abducts another Tempest. You see how fragile those Tempests are, and look how low their damage is when they're not just shooting and not getting hits in return. The moment they're getting hit in return, the Tempest looks like a trash unit. It is like any long-range unit. Think of artillery, guys. You don't want your artillery to be getting hit. That's not its specialty. That's essentially what Tempests are. Sometimes I call them like snipers. You know, they're snipers not meant to stand there and absorb a lot of damage, is it? It's meant to shoot without being seen. Nice recall. Oh, God, a lot of High Templar go down. Ultra Corruptor does get a pretty good fight. One Spire goes down in the main. It is the greatest Spire. The other Spire does survive. The Ultra does end up hanging on. This is a massive Remax. If NightMare had any semblance of an economy to reinforce this whole time, this could have been great, because he's traded 8,000 resources better, which on this map, which is split map, it should be a game-winning advantage, but it's not. And now REYNOR is making my favorite composition for late game ZVP. And you know why it's my favorite? Because you don't need to micro. F2, A move! Ultras from 2 sides. Corruptor's coming in as well. He does also have Neuroparasite, so he's going to add a little bit of that Zerg tentacle for the action. And that is my favorite army, because you just set it up to come from multiple sides, you attack, move, and that's something that even a baboon like I can handle. But it was perfect for REYNOR in this scenario, because he cleared all the Immortals, jumps in from 2 sides, and great efficiency. Amazing efficiency and constant base denial from REYNOR. GG, well played. He ties up the series. All right, well, not great at defending his bases. Not great at defending his early carriers, but once he got the Tempests out, he definitely put on a fearsome push. NightMare in the bottom right side of the map. Now tied up 1-1 with REYNOR in the top left. Basilisk Gaming, of course, being represented, or just Basilisk, as they prefer to be called, REYNOR's team. All right. So REYNOR like Dark, not really doubling his workers up. He actually pulled a worker off one of the closer mineral patches, and he's letting his workers kind of stack wherever. It looks like he's fixing it now. Okay, there we go. He does fix that mining, which is nice. And he's just going to go take a third. So he was going to go 16 hatchery. Having to take the third is not ideal, but it's something which REYNOR is usually... I mean, he went 15-15 earlier in the series. I know he said he's not the biggest fan of 15-15 in this matchup, and he is preferring going back to the hatch gas pool, and he's happy to take the third base and just defend it. I always find this opening as very dangerous if you're not a REYNOR level player. It's just small mistakes can lead to such catastrophe in the early game, because you have to split your Lings here and up here to guard both mineral lines simultaneously. It's just a bit challenging for players who aren't gods of the game. There's some proper construction going on outside, by the way, guys. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I if it's like, is it like upstairs or something? I don't know what's going on. There's some very big like cranes and trucks emptying things type noises. I don't know. It sounds real loud. Hopefully you guys aren't getting it. Hopefully our microphone settings are A-okay. Usually it's pretty good at shutting out crazy noises. Nice probe harass so far. Yeah, REYNOR, I mean, that was a really good game for him in that last one. I think for NightMare, it's like, just leave a High Templar on that third base, man. Leave a High Templar on that third. Get an Oracle on the defense duty as well, so you can, like, have it patrolling outside your base and see where these Zerglings are coming from. And I think REYNOR's going to commit so much to trying to kill that economy, because REYNOR, if you block REYNOR's run-bys and attacks and you take movement away from him, REYNOR visibly gets frustrated. Like, we've seen REYNOR playing Maru or, like, even Showtime sometimes at events. He looks annoyed because they're just, like, not leaving an opening, and he's like, oh, this is so boring, you know, this turtle stuff. REYNOR likes movement. And I think NightMare, if he finds himself in a similar situation in the last game, it's like, dude, just build more static, have more defenses, and make sure he can't get in there. Okay, Oracle's on the way there as well. Gonna get chronoed out. Nice. Not really committing to any early Adept pressure, which I always feel like if you're gonna bother blocking their expansion, committing to 2 Adepts is kind of a no-brainer. On the other hand, it's probably best to mix it up, right? Not a bad idea to alternate, keep your opponent guessing. Second gateway goes up. Pylon finishes up in this main base as well. This is a pretty good map for a queen walk. There are some nice big queen walks. That being said, REYNOR, I haven't seen REYNOR do the hatchery tech with the really early queen walks in a long time. Dark still loves those. I think that's still very scary to mix in. He's more of a German taxi guy recently. So he could go for that this game. Roach Warren goes down nice and early, 345. Very safe Roach Warren. REYNOR does not want to take any chances. Second Oracle's about to come out. Adepts do move forward, clear up this third Nexus. Oracle entering the main base. Nice start. 3 drones. That's... Oh, 4? Dude, 5 drones. Oh, REYNOR was just slow. This Overlord, I think, just popped out. Maybe he didn't see this coming in. His queens were not out front to greet it. Really just beautiful damage there. If we look at his Overlords, he's got 2 out front, which is standard. He already had 2 Overlords in the north. That's bad prioritization. Oh, but the Oracle goes back in and gets killed. Huge screw up by NightMare. From a massive start to a bit of a screw up. Being said, he's got 4 Adepts. But yeah, there's no reason to have 2 Overlords watching the same attack path this early. They're also right against the edge of the map when they could be a little further south. And they could still see to the edge of the map. So definitely REYNOR with a small mistake, taking too long to put this Overlord in position. This Overlord also should be to the right a little bit as well. REYNOR's been clicking those Overlords right on the edge of the map, which generally limits the overall vision they give. So that is a very slight optimization issue. Evo Chamber's almost finished. 14 Zerglings building. I mean, REYNOR's still got the worker advantage despite that. Killing the Oracle, I think, makes it totally fine. Evens things out very well, even though it was 5 drones very early in the game. The Adepts not going to do the shade behind the mineral line. Just going to clear a bit of creep, be a nuisance. Forge goes down as well as 4 more gateways. Ooh, 6 gate. 6 gate blink. Hello. No robo. Looks like we're going to see an old school style. No robo, just straight into blink aggression most likely. But those Adepts all die. And REYNOR's all over it. He's got his 4th base on the way. 10 more drones building because he's shut down the early pressure. It's looking about as smooth as it can get for REYNOR, guys. 10 more drones. A lair starts up here at 5:30. Second gas goes down. And this man is rich. Meanwhile, NightMare, he's definitely not rich. He's lost a lot of units this game. And it feels like he's so committed to what is now a 7-gate blink Oracle aggression. He's gonna try and proxy a gate up north. And that's good. That'll be close to the 4th base, which is, of course, the most important one to deny. REYNOR is already taking a 5th, though, so I think he's not going to be too upset with losing that hatchery. And he is droning quite hard. So REYNOR is droning to 70 workers. Remember what we said, the old Serral wisdom is if they don't take gas on their 3rd, you do not want to drone too hard. But look at this. NightMare's doing a really good job of cleaning up his Zerglings. And REYNOR needs to actually realize that there is no gas here. Because NightMare's feigning taking a 4th base. He's actually not. REYNOR has assumed there's a 4th. He is massing Zerglings, which is good. He needs to make Roaches as well. He cancelled his Roach Horn! Guys, he cancelled his Roach Warren. Ravages are huge against this sort of push. Ravages are so huge. If you don't have Ravages, it makes it much harder to spend your money, as well as just get enough units in position. The mass Stalker attack's coming. REYNOR thinks he's running in to cancel a 4th. He sees no 4th, and he's going, oh, crud. I've misread this game. And yet he starts a drone. What's he starting a drone for? He's trying to tech Hive right now against the 3-base Protoss. He starts Zerglings now, but REYNOR, not really realizing how committed this push is, started teching to Hive. He's going to go Hydra and Infestation bit. Lings are running in. The other Lings aren't here just yet. The Stalkers are fighting very well against these Zerglings. +1 melee is done. The Oracles are going to add some big damage. The Queen's focusing the Reddit point Oracle. It's a lot of Blink Stalkers. Nightmare is 100% committed. Oh god, 20 Zerglings popping. But remember, no Roach Warren, no Ravagers here. The Queens do okay, but the Oracles actually just added so much damage. 9 kills and 6 kills between them. And not to mention the ones that they softened up. He's over-droned here, has REYNOR. And he's being caught out by this big 7-gate Blink Stalker timing attack. Great scouting denial by NightMare. This was a good opening for REYNOR, but he just didn't realize how much NightMare was going all out on this. It's an 8-gate, no Robo, just warping. He's even warping in Zealots now. Just slow Zealots because he knows, hey, this is nothing but Zerglings. I want to win the game right now. I need Zealots. Zealots with +1 wreck Zerglings. That's the way to do it. The Stalkers are blinking back. Hydra's rallying in from behind. Hydras without upgrades aren't very good. Of course, REYNOR needs something better than Zerglings. But, you know, it's tough. It really is tough here. REYNOR caught being a little bit greedy, and it looks like NightMare going to take him down. The Oracles do fall. The drone's being pulled off the line. If REYNOR holds even with 55 workers, he's still in a playable position. The problem is he just can't get on top of these Stalkers. They're just not dying. So few Stalkers going down. The Blink Micro has been fantastic. And the numbers are just completely cleared out. REYNOR, without any range damage added on top, it's so hard to deal with these Blink Stalkers. You know, no Biles or anything. Oh, the power it would have had. If he had 3 or 4 Ravagers in there, you know, and the Zergling flank a little earlier, that would have been very big. But REYNOR just kind of had his mind in the wrong place in this matchup. And we saw it. I was like, number one, he's scouting the 4th very late. But so it's the fact that he just, you know, he didn't confirm. No Overseer through the back. No scout on these gases, which to be fair, NightMare cleared up. But then even when he does see what's happening, and also canceling the Roach Warren is just so greedy, guys. He really was playing a very greedy game. But then he sees no 4th, and I thought, oh, it's going to be nothing but Zerglings from here. And like Queens and maybe Spines and stuff. But you could see the response. REYNOR sees no 4th. And I think in his mind, he thought maybe it was on the right side, but he drops a Hydra Den to go with the Infestation. I think maybe it's because it's the fastest tech structure. It builds earlier than a Roach Warren. He's thinking, well, I need Hydras to help defend. But I think he should cancel the Infestation and just anything to defend. Like, bring every Queen to the front right now, build extra Queens, and then scramble and try to delay fighting. I don't think he should have fought here, guys. I think these Lings are on the wrong side of the map. They can counterattack if you want. Like, I think counterattacking here is actually optimal. I think pull back, let him push right into attacking the hatchery, pull behind the mineral line, pull up here, just so he's a bit more in the open. Whereas here, it feels like the Lings are all kind of getting stuck behind each other on this edge. These Lings aren't fighting, and he's warping in on the front. Whereas imagine if you run these Lings in this mineral line. And remember, you can give this base up. Remember what I said? You can grab the drones on the Queens, click them on this hatchery, pull back, and force these Stalkers to move further on creep, further away from the warp-in point, into these areas where you can surround them a little bit more. So I think REYNOR, he had late scouting, and he really needed to respect what was coming and basically just go like, give up ground. I just need to survive right now. I think because he had a good start and he thought, well, I've got +1 melee Zerglings. Of course, +1 Zerglings do pretty good versus Stalkers. Like, this should be a good fight for me, but he's about 5-6 drones, maybe 7 drones higher than he should have been in this game. And yeah, just a really nice fight for NightMare. Hats off to NightMare, guys. NightMare played really well. Interested to break down what went on in this series. This could have been a 2-0 for REYNOR, but letting that first game slip away was kind of criminal. This game, I think, was a mixture of, yeah, he made some mistakes, but I think NightMare disguised his push really well, microed really well. I would say game 1 is the bigger thing that needs to be fixed for REYNOR. Whereas surprises like this do happen. It's just a reminder that REYNOR's scouting maybe needs to be just a little bit more constant, especially against a Protoss who's so focused on denying scouting. And at the highest levels, the final point I want to make before we wrap this up is there's actually sometimes your opponent trying to deny your vision is a tell. And if I'm REYNOR here and I'm going, hey, why have you got Stalkers here and Stalkers here? Like, all my vision Why are you hunting down my vision so doggedly? Why are you clearing these Zerglings? Why are you so desperate? And I might just run my Zerglings through the middle to just go see, hey, what's happening at this base? What are you warping in? Are there gases? I need to see this base. And that's really important. And if he did that straight away, he would have seen a pack of Stalkers moving through the middle of the map. And even that would have been a fantastic tell for him. Nonetheless, GG, well played by NightMare. Really well done.